Hey guys, and welcome to the second part of my 3D integration tutorial mini-series. In the last part of this tutorial, I talked about the theory of 3D integration, and if you missed it, you can check it out right here. Today, I will talk about step 1 of that process, the shoot. I figured this was going to be dead boring to film at home, so I figured I'd bring a gun. Cause we're on a shoot. Don't worry, I've got the safety on. Whew. I'll be good. Well, I thought I'd bring you along on an actual shoot for some cool 3D integration effects. We will film two scenes here today. The first scene will have me walking into the shot as a floating reflective cube appears and I'll try to interact with it. The second shot will have me walking into the scene. I'll notice some rumbling and some vibrations, and as the camera pans up towards the left, we will see a massive UFO approach above the tree line. Now, the most important thing you can bring on a shoot for 3D integration effect is, well, yes, your camera, but besides your camera, pen and paper and a measuring tape. Because we will have to recreate this exact scene inside our 3D program, we need to know as much about the scene as possible. This includes all of the camera settings like the focal length, the aperture, the shutter speed, ISO and white balance, how high the camera's off the ground, where it's aiming at. We also want to write down any other relevant information that help us recreate this scene inside of our 3D program. For this particular shot, this includes the distance from the camera to where I'll be standing, the distance from me to the trees, the distance between the trees, the distance from the camera to the tree line. You can't ever write down too much information, only too little. But enough talking, let's get cracking. Got everything? Good. Store this information away, because we will need it again at step 3. Before we get started filming, let me quickly get back to one important point I made in the previous part for this tutorial. You have to film your scene with the visual effects in mind. Firstly, we have to look at the light, the shadows and any reflective surfaces in our scene, because any virtual object we add to the scene will have to be properly lit, cast shadows and have reflections to look realistic. For example, the floating cube will receive some of the light falling through the trees and it will have to cast a shadow. For the UFO, however, since it'll be way above the tree line towards the left and all the shadows are falling away from the scene towards our left, that won't be much of an issue. Since we need to track our footage in the next step of this process, we don't want to make it harder for us than we really need to. For this shoot, I've placed the camera on a tripod and I've got elements with well-defined shapes and patterns in the scene that are easy to track even during the camera pan. Of course, you can handhold your camera, but it gets increasingly difficult as your camera moves very quickly and elements are a bit too blurred to be tracked. Enough babbling, let's get filming. Done? Awesome! Before we finish off, there's one last thing we need to take care of. We want our floating reflective cube to reflect the environment, which means we have to record that environment. We can do this by using something that is called a sphere map. A sphere map is a 360-degree panorama image that, inside your 3D program, you can map onto your virtual elements so it looks like the elements are reflecting that environment. You may have seen production teams use chrome balls to capture sphere maps, but since I don't have a chrome ball on me, I'm going to use the next best thing, my iPhone. There's a free app called Photosynth available on the iPhone that allows you to create a 360-degree panorama. The app is pretty easy to use. You just turn in a circle and take consecutive photos, and inside of the app, all of those images will then be stitched together. Finished? Sweet! You can now grab this image off your camera roll, and this is what my sphere map looks like. We now have everything we need to move on to the next step of creating some cool 3D integration effects. We have our footage, our camera information, any relevant scene measurements, as well as a sphere map for any reflective surfaces we want to create. I really hope you enjoyed the second part to my 3D integration tutorial mini-series. As always, please leave any comments, questions or suggestions in the section below. I will put up the next part of this tutorial mini-series soon, so please subscribe if you want to see more, or come and stalk me on Facebook or Twitter. Until next time, I will see you later. Can I do some shooting now? I'll be careful with the gun. Whoa!